40 minutes, oh boy, or 40 seconds, oh boy. Okay.
There we go. Hello, everybody. I'm back. Welcome to Unverified. I don't know why. Oh boy, we're gonna need Tony to put on his headphones because I started
I'm
shouting.
muted. We're good.
Well, no, I started shouting. And I can hear you. I can hear you, Rays fans, through the audio. Put the headphones on, Rays fans. We're green. I'm back. I was in Europe for like 2.5 weeks. I don't have an accent. I hope not, anyway. I've learned to drink warm water. I've learned how to
Ugh.
cope without air conditioning again. So really 90 degrees here in Indiana has been just peachy. I've had no problems with it. I had a great time. Tony, did you guys have a great time here in the United States over the past couple of weeks? What did you guys do without me? Was everything more functional without David Land in the IndyCar paddock? These are the questions I have. I need the answers to.
Well, despite what you might believe, the show went on. We had plenty to talk about coming out of a really good race at Gateway, which had a really bad rating, I thought. We had some other controversy. We've got plenty of stuff to talk to tonight. The United States did not burn down. Well, didn't burn down with you not here. Neither did the west side of
They tried.
Indianapolis.
They tried.
They certainly tried. But welcome back to you. It was a busy, 2 weeks for you overseas. Got to see two 24-hour races. We've got a lot of IndyCar to cover. We've got Dude Bro sources to uncover. Kyle is once again in Road America for like the third straight weekend. We had a nice little time up there over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I do love it in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Got to go to one of my favorite places in Seamkins, throw back a few spotted cows, but we had a great weekend, and I know that you had an awesome 2 weeks. So I think what we should do to start this show off here at Unverified, and again, thanks everybody for tuning in a day late. Kyle's a little bit under the weather. David was about 24 hours into his stint back in the United States last night, so we decided last minute to move it to tonight. But David, I think for the next couple of minutes, just walk us through what you were doing, who you were with, what you saw, and how wild it was for you to be overseas for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So what's interesting is like I had been to Le Mans before. I went in 2023, and really I thought that was just going to be checking a bucket list item. I didn't think I would be going back. And as time went on, and as the friend group that I went with in 2023 kind of got to talking, uh, we decided we wanted to go back. And so I kind of made a decision, or we kind of made a decision last year before the IndyCar schedule came out by Tony. He's gone. He's gone, race fans. I kind of made a decision that I wanted to go again. And really, I made that decision during the 2024 24 hours of Le Mans when I was working at a go-kart race in Cincinnati as a pit reporter. And I said, what am I doing? Why am I not at Le Mans? So made that decision. And then the IndyCar schedule came out and found out Gateway was going to conflict with that, which was disappointing, but it is what it is. So yeah, and then I guess I'm giving you the very Cliff's Notes version of this. Went to Le Mans this year, and as you should, by the way, if you go to Le Mans, if you can, of course, I think you should just go. Period. If you're any kind of a racing fan like we are, or who are watching this show, you need to do it once at least, and you're probably gonna want to do it again, as I'm great evidence about. If you do Le Mans, you want to do the first week as well. It's much like Indy. It's a 2-week show. You have the scrutineering, which is in downtown Le Mans, which is just an awesome time. I photobombed several teams, so I'm definitely going to be in the yearbooks. I'm definitely on the social media pages. Look at your favorite hype IPECA team. I'm probably in the background of the photos. And then they have a test day, which is a lot of fun. And then obviously the week leading up to the race is just like Indy, really. Huge crowd at Le Mans. Not as big as Indy, close though. I think they had 340,000. Indy was 375. So it was packed. It was a lot of fun. Actually got to spend some time with the folks at Genesis Magma Racing. Actually got to see the checkered flag from their suite. They invited me to a couple of different things throughout the weekend. So Really cool to get those opportunities. It was kind of like, I was there as a fan, and I got to go to New York City with them to unveil the GMR 001, and that's the car they'll be racing at Le Mans next year. And they just kind of said, "Hey, if you're going to be in town, let's bring you out to some of this stuff." And I said, "Absolutely." So got to do that. A little bit of work. It wasn't too much work. It was really mostly fun. I saw Greg Penske and oh god, who's the other guy? A couple of Penske higher ups about 5 minutes before the chassis delay thing happened. I'm kind of glad I saw them before I read that article. I'll just put it that way. And Le Mans was a lot of fun. Le Mans is just it is amazing. But then I got to continue to work with my friends at Hyundai and Brian Hurd Autosport and come out to the Nurburgring 24 hours the week after, and spent some time again with my friends. We went to Stuttgart in Germany. The first time I've been to Germany. We saw the Porsche Museum, the Mercedes Museum, got to go to Hockenheimring, and I got the worst poison ivy of my life walking out to, pretty somber place, but the place where Jim Clark lost his life in the forest in 1968 in a Formula 2 race. And there's still a tribute there. And it was something I really felt strongly about doing, so strongly that I wore shorts and walked through the woods in Germany. Didn't get eaten by a bear, got eaten by a lot of pollen and stuff like that. But I was really happy to be able to do that. Because Jim Clark, actually, it's, I think we did a history segment in the Indy 500 month with Jim Clark, where 1965, which is 60 years ago now, was one of the greatest seasons ever. Won the Indy 500, won the Formula One World Championship, essentially undefeated in Formula One for like 9 months or something like that. Actually started the year, the very first day of the year, won a race in South Africa, won the Tasman Series. So Jim Clark, I mean, like this was most important to do that. And then Nurburgring 24 with Hyundai and Brian Hurd Autosport. Got to see Robert Wickens compete for 24 hours with hand controls. That's the longest that system has ever gone, and it lasted. It survived. That system's built by Bosch. Rob intends fully to be a full-time WeatherTech Sports Car Championship driver next year, doing the endurance races. He's doing the sprint races this year. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes. I couldn't possibly say anything else about that, but hopefully there's some good news coming. And that just was amazing. I would compare Nürburgring to, it was essentially the size of the Indy 500, the fan insanity of like a snake pit or like a Sebring, kind of a middle ground between those two things, and then almost like the distance of a rally stage where you have to almost commit hours to choosing a place to go, and the wildness of a rally too. Like I had a photo vest, and I could go out right on the track, right next to the guardrail, and I'm sitting there going, if a car hits this and goes, because it's not very high guardrail. I mean, like the Nürburgring Nordschleife is straight out of the 1970s. It is pretty much the same damn track that it has been since it was built. And so I'm sitting there going, this is dangerous. This is exciting. So that was just an amazing experience. I mean, I could go into it forever, but again, Hyundai and Brian Hurd Autosport were just so awesome for inviting me out to that. And Nürburgring had 280,000 people at it. So in the last 3 weeks of my life, I believe I've been to the 3 biggest races in the world from the perspective of fan attendance. I don't know if there's any one that's bigger than Indy 500, Le Mans 24 hours, and the Nürburgring 24 hours in terms of fan attendance. And then the Detroit Grand Prix, of course. But amazingly privileged. So thankful to my friends. So many friends. That's the other thing too, man. It's been really cool to like continue to grow relationships in racing, because every racetrack now, doesn't matter where it is in the world, I've got like a social circle and a support group and people I can go to dinner with, and it's just great. It's so much fun. So that's my little spiel. What do you think? What do you think, Tony? Have I sold you on Europe?
Walk me through what it's like being at a 24-hour race, whether it's the 24 hours of Daytona or what you saw over the last couple of weeks. What are your sleeping patterns? Where are you sleeping? Do you leave the track? And if you leave the track, do you maybe have a FOMO? Do you sleep in the car? I've known you to stay up all night playing video games anyway. So are you somebody who just stays up all night and then gets a 3 hour nap in? Like, walk me through what that. I know it's difficult for the drivers, and obviously they have to rehydrate and get some sleep in their buses. But for a fan or a media member covering a 24-hour race, just walk me through what that was like for you.
So I actually broke my rule at the Nurburgring. My rule, generally speaking, is the first 24-hour race I go to at a track, I don't sleep. So the first one that I did personally was, I think it was the Rolex in 2020, and I did not sleep, and I was working. So and we had the harebrained plan with the Rolex 24 for the first couple of years. I did it to do 6 hour updates or hour updates every 6 hours. And so I did that and also stayed up the entire night. But it was a badge of honor, and I did it, and I made it happen, and it was great. I did that for my first 24 hours of Le Mans too. In fact, I think in 2023 at Le Mans, I stayed up for something like 36 hours, I believe. I did the math from the time I woke up, got to the track, the race itself, having dinner, going back to the hotel, or sorry, the Airbnb, and sleeping. At the Nürburgring, I did not do that. And for Le Mans this year, I didn't do that. And for the last Daytona I covered, which I think was 2 years ago, I didn't do that. My general plan now with a 24-hour race is I will stay up till about 1, 2, 3 in the morning, depending on when it happens. At Le Mans, I believe it was 3 in the morning. And then I went back to our rental car and I just slept in the back seat for about 4 hours, and then went back out and finished the race. At Nürburgring, it was kind of awesome because with Hyundai and Brian Hurd Autosport, we had a pretty cool hookup. We were staying in the town of Adenau, which is actually on the racetrack. It's about the opposite end of the track to the main straightaway. But shout out to who I consider one of the best, if not the best PR people in the game, Katie Brannon. She allowed me to, and I can't believe she put up with this. This was crazy. I had to do a video. As you might know, some news broke in the IndyCar world about the 2028 car. So I had to film a segment, and then I had to wait for Kyle to get the video to me. And by the time I got it uploaded, because the internet wasn't very good in the Nürburgring Media Center, it was like 3:30 in the morning. And Katie, the trooper that she was, drove me back to the hotel to get a little bit of sleep. So now by the time I actually settled in, it was 5 o'clock in the morning, and I shut off the light in my hotel room, and it was light outside. So that's how 24-hour races go typically for me. Is I get a couple hours of sleep, but for the most part, I'm locked in the entire race.
Did you feel like you got to see every part of both racetracks that you wanted? So, like, I was in Road America, 4 mile track, and if you know somebody at the golf cart, you're in luck. If you try to hop on the tram and get the right one, you might be able to go out somewhere. It was kind of limited walking for a lot of people over the weekend because it was in the mid 90s and it felt like it was 102. Did you feel like you got to go out and shoot where you wanted to and see some of the spots at both tracks that you wanted to? Or do you feel like there's a lot left on the table for when you go back again that you want to go check out?
Definitely Nordschleife. No, I didn't see nearly everything. I didn't see the carousel. I didn't see the Flugplatz. I didn't see probably 2/3 of the Nordschleife. I mean, there's so much still I want to see there. So hopefully, I mean, the Nürburgring 24 next year, I think, is on the weekend of the GP. So I'm not saying I wouldn't skip the GP, by the way, but we're constantly evaluating. We're constantly
You
evaluating.
would.
We're constantly evaluating.
You would.
We're constantly evaluating. I've got nothing to announce this time. But it is on the weekend of the GP next year. But there are obviously other races that happen on the Nürburgring Nordschleife. I would be interested in going back and just seeing it, or driving a lap myself. You can do that. They have something called tourist days, and you can rent cars and you can drive around yourself, or have go around in something called a ring taxi, which is driven by a professional, which is probably the smarter, safer way to do it. But I've never been known to
Well,
be fair.
everybody needs to know that you have your SCCA license. So
I do. I do. Well, I've got so I have like the learner's permit. And since I think I have to go back and do it again, which again, if anyone has a Formula Ford and I can drive it and I won't crash it, I guarantee you I will, but I can go get that license again and we can go racing. But at Le Mans, I have seen the whole track. They have buses, although the bus situation this year was a disaster. I did get to go to all of the corners I wanted to go to: Mulsanne Corner, Indianapolis, which they have a corner named Indianapolis at Le Mans, Arnage, Porsche Curves, Tete Rouge, all the corners I wanted to see, I got to see. So Le Mans, I know how to get around that track. Nurburgring, I'm still learning. But Le Mans, honestly, like in France, the country, I feel very comfortable there now. Like I could, if I needed to, which I'm not really anticipating to, I could live there. I could figure it out. And I haven't just enough French. Like I have no German, but I can speak a little French and it helps a lot.
but you're in love with German women, so you have to learn that.
You piece of crap.
Oh, surprised you didn't meet the other influencers there. Would have been neat to see a collab with Dave and that crew.
Which influencers?
I don't know. There must have been some influencers.
Are we talking about the car that had Jimmy Broadbent in it and Super GT? Because maybe I wanted to see those boys, but like again, they were more busy than I was.
Yes, Jimmy was racing in.
Yeah. I would have liked to have done that. The opportunity again. I wasn't necessarily covering the race. I was covering Brian Herta, Autosport, and Hyundai. So I think that's one thing that needs to kind of be made a distinction. Was like I could have probably just walked in that garage and like said who I was or whatever. But like again, Jimmy was racing. Like I'm gonna respect his privacy. Race, so I didn't like go out of my way. If I had run into him in the paddock, I would have said hi, but we never crossed paths. I saw Akio Toyota, which was interesting. The CEO of Toyota was racing, and I saw Kazunori Yamuchi. I won't say where I saw him because I feel like that, but I'll just put it this way: I was eating, and Kaz Yamuchi, who is the creator of Gran Turismo, was like sitting at a table like caddy corner for me, and it took all of my professionalism and effort to not go up and fanboy to him and then ask him for hypercars in Gran Turismo. Anyway, sorry.
So what you missed in the IndyCar realm over the last 2.5 weeks, we talked about last week, the win for Kyle Kirkwood in what I thought was a very exciting gateway race. We saw the spectacular crash with Joseph Newgarden. We saw great racing under the lights. We saw what I mentioned on the show last week, a recipe for a great rating, and it barely sniffed a million watchers, a million viewers, which I thought was a little bit disappointing. I thought it should have been a little bit higher than that. Then we went and found out last Wednesday that that Nolan Siegel has a potty mouth. We'll talk about that. And then we got into Road America with a perfect tens. Alex Palou, his Red Solo Cup team at Chip Ganassi continues to do what they've done all year. And I said this in my post-race video. So I know, Dave, what you're going to say. Oh, I didn't miss much if Kyle Kirkwood and Alex Palou just continue to win.
You took my line. I was going to – you know me too well. You got to stop. You're taking all my material away. I didn't miss anything.
It's too easy. But with that being said, I thought Road America was a good race. I thought it was the most entertaining road/street course that we've seen in the 2025 season. Scott Dixon was in the lead, kind of playing the strategy right. He was a 30-1 odd to win the race. He was in position. He told us after the race, if it wasn't for the hybrid, he would have ended up winning the race. Would have been able to save more fuel. And nonetheless, a good day for him. And then with Palou winning, we see Santino Ferrucci and Felix Rosenquist on the podium. Great run for Nolan Siegel, who ended up in the top 10. He told me he had a gosh darn good day, which we were walking on the grid together, and I said, hey, Nolan, you need to get on the radio like early in the race and be like, oh, shucks, gosh darn it, what is he doing? So after the race, he finished in the top 10, as in Kiffin Simpson. It was a great day for Ganassi and another good, consistent run for your boy Kiff Dog. I said to Nolan's, I said, hey, let's do a quick interview. And I said, hey, make sure you say gosh darn. So I know some of you saw it. If you missed that, it was on my Twitter as well as my Instagram. But Let's talk about the dominance and not just this year, but the historical dominance that we've seen out of Alex Palou getting it done. And I said this between Barber and the Indy GP. I think Alex Palou already has like a 5-second lead heading into Mid Ohio.
Yeah, I remember hearing early rumblings this season that Palou was going to be like on another planet. And I think I said specifically when I heard that, I said he's going to clinch the championship by Mid-Ohio. Now, I don't know if that was actually realistic to happen. I guess he would have had to win every race. He's just won 60% of the races or whatever the hell it's been. It's just absolutely unbelievable. But yes, if it wasn't for a pit crew error last year, which by the way, Road America and Mid Ohio, I can't imagine why, have a lot of pit errors for some reason. So perhaps there needs to be what's up?
I'll say dehydration.
Yeah, dehydration. Well, I would tell you, if you're on the perfect 10 crew, go to bed early. Go to bed early at Mid Ohio because I think Alex should win. Like there's no reason he shouldn't win at Mid Ohio. He's better on the tires than everybody. I mean, that's something that I had a discussion recently about Alex, and it was with somebody who is very, very smart in racing. And so I said, what does he do? And it's the same thing. You've heard it from everybody, but his tire management is so good. And with the hybrid, with that weight and with the current construction of the tire, it's never been more important to be able to manage tires. And he does it better than anybody else. And so when we're on a track like Mid Ohio, and you can have pace, and you can have the great strategy, and you can have the great pit stops, just everything works in Alex Palou's favor. Everything. And yeah, I'd be surprised if someone else wins. If it is someone else, maybe it's Kyle Kirkwood.
I'll say this about Alex Palou. Winning at Road America, winning at Detroit last year, winning Mid Ohio. It's all cool. It's all fun. I am ready 100% to put him in the conversation of one of the best drivers all time. I'm not saying that he is the best driver of all time, but what he's done before his first 100 starts in IndyCar, championships, wins, the Indianapolis 500, which eluded him until a month ago, and we talked about it. He hasn't won an oval. Now he has. Well, are you ready, David Land? And you're very cynical about the past and all-time greats and that type of thing. Are you ready to put Alex Palou in that conversation?
He was already in the conversation. This is the thing, is that, and I get why, but and I understand why, but no one was ever going to validate him until he won the Indy 500. Like that was just like, I remember Barber was not that long ago. Remember when everybody was talking and over hating Palou like 2 weeks ago, or it feels like 2 weeks, maybe it's like 3 or 4 weeks, but like it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago that everybody was trying to diminish him and say, oh, X, Y, Z. Like, look, man, he is. It's unbelievable. Oh, well, it's escape. Yeah, well, we can blame 100 other things that's making the racing not so great that other than Alex Palou. But Alex,
Alex was the excuse. He was the excuse for thermal to TV cutting off. He was the excuse for not having a new car. He was the excuse for the weight on the hybrid and it making the racing suck. It's not his fault that he just kicked everybody's ass and has been dominant.
Yeah, he didn't design the tires. He doesn't promote the sport. He doesn't broadcast the race. He doesn't plug in the generator. Like, what are we like? Okay, but again, the conversation already needed to be had. When you win 3 IndyCar championships before the age of 30, that puts you in the conversation automatically. When you win as much as he has this season, regardless of the Indy 500, like the Indy 500 is the icing on the cake. Okay, now he's won the big one. Like, I guess win on a short oval now. Like, that's the last thing I would really say he needs to like complete the set of like being a totally complete IndyCar driver. But like, yes, he is one of the best of all time, bar none.
Let me ask you this. What is more likely to happen in these 3 scenarios? Palou gets to 6 championships, Dixon gets to 7 championships, or Palou leaves for Formula One in the next 2 years?
Palou at 6 championships. I don't. So if he goes to Formula One, which I still think, I guess he had an offer from Williams at one point recently that came out recently, but the problem is Williams isn't going to be a championship winning team. So if you're Alex Palou, I think you have to make the same question that you would have made about like an Alex Zanardi or a Juan Montoya or some of the other drivers who went over. Jacques Villeneuve did win a championship. Okay, so if you can't get in the best car, which by the way, Alex Palou did, he already positioned himself to be in the best car. If he had actually, if Zach Brown had put him in the McLaren Formula One car, or if he had been able to get away from Chip Ganassi when he tried to, Alex Palou's the world champion in Formula One. If not last year, he would have been this year. But ultimately, that didn't happen. So if you're Alex Palou and you're able to just decimate the field right now in IndyCar, why would you not stay? And by the way, the regulations are not changing for the next 2 years after this one. So Alex Palou could get to 6 championships by 2028. Like right this second. Like he could win the next 3. There's nothing stopping it from winning the next 3 championships. Am I wrong?
Look, I mean, I think what we're seeing this year, and somebody mentioned this, there's always like a couple of years or a year or two where Penske seems to really struggle and they come back and dominate. So is that an expectation for 2026? We'll see. I'll say this about Alex Palou. What I want to say that water has to find its level, right? He'll come down and we'll see other drivers start winning, but that hasn't happened. That hasn't happened since he moved over to the 10 car. And you remember when he left Dale Coyne Racing, Chip Ganassi's shortlist was Rinus VeeKay and Alex Palou. Rinus VeeKay was not let out of his contract at Carpenter Racing. So you talk about the what ifs with Palou possibly being in Formula One. Well, what if that were to happen? Would this be possibly Rinus VeeKay who's having a really good car and a really good season in lower equipment? I don't know what's going to stop Alex Palou, and here's why I don't think that he goes to Formula One. I think that he is established here in Indianapolis, as you mentioned. He's in the best car on one of, if not the best team. If Honda does indeed stay, which seems to be the track that they're on, you're building a life here. You're building a family here. It's where you feel like you should be, and you don't mess with winning. And we know that I have a great relationship with Marcus Ericsson. But what I told Marcus Ericsson was you don't take yourself out of a Ganassi car. And I don't think you take yourself out of a Ganassi car to go run 12th to 14th in a Formula One series.
No. The only thing that would maybe move him away would be a huge paycheck. Like somebody says, we're going to pay you $10 million a year to run 15th in Formula One. I think that
you see that happening?
No, I don't see a Formula One team that's going to take a chance on him, especially as he gets older. It doesn't matter. And that sucks. It sucks because he deserves it. But I'm going to say something. I think I said it on this show. If Alex Palou is one of the best drivers in the world, I'm going to be selfish. Let's keep him the F here because he validates this championship. Because if somebody beats him, and by the way, Kyle Kirkwood has beat him a few times this year, that is what a great reflection on the drivers that do beat him. And that's how you build stars. You can if you're creative, but like that's right now. There's your promotional avenue that you can go down. Is okay. Alex Palou is the best driver in the world. Who can beat him? Boom.
Fox's marketing needs to change from the fastest racing in the world to can you beat the fastest driver in the world? And that currently right now is Alex Palou.
Hey, Fox, do it. Like, that's brilliant. Like, that's exactly what they should do. They should pivot right this second to that. Because that's, you don't even, Alex Palou, by the way, he does have a personality. This is what a lot of people don't realize. But
he does. I'll say this. Hold on. I'll say this because you weren't there. But like the whole Red Solo Cup ride, everybody associates that with partying and camping and having a good time. I thought that fit so well over the weekend.
Oh, it was a great sponsorship. It was a lot of fun. I hope it comes back. I hope they stay because, I mean, it's clear Has Alex won in every like alternate paint scheme he's run this year? I think he has.
Yeah, did he get has he been in the Ridgeline? Well, the Honda for sure.
Yeah. Did he
Was he
win?
Ridgeline again at Thermal? I forget because the TV cut out.
I don't know if he's run the Ridgeline car this year. Maybe he has. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Someone could tell
We'll
us.
figure it
We're gonna get a text message
out.
about
They all
that.
run together.
Uh,
They all run together.
Well, that's true. Well, he just keeps winning, so we'll just say he won in every alternate livery, and then if it's not true, it's not true.
He ran Ridgeline at Gateway, so I think he's
Oh, okay.
needs to
He didn't
win
win
in the
it.
Ridgeline car. But last year, I know for sure he won in the Ridgeline car at Thermal because I was there.
Yeah,
Speaking of
that's right.
Thermal,
Hey, yeah. Well, hang on. Before we talk about thermal, Alex Palou does have a personality. Not many people know how to get it out of him. There's a secret to getting the personality out of Alex Palou, but you don't need him to have a personality if he's the best driver in the world. Literally, that's all you have to say. Boom. There's his personality.
Well,
you're welcome, Fox.
I know two people on this chat right now that know how to get drivers' personalities to come out. Anyway, Thermal. Off the schedule, I think to a lot of fans, they say, "Oh, that's great. Who cares? We didn't want it on the schedule anyway." You know, last year you had the massive storm, the windstorm that came through and had a lot of damage. This year, obviously, with the TV cutting out. Um, I know a lot of drivers liked Thermal and liked racing there, and Felix Rosenquist liked it enough to go on to Twitter and say how much that he liked racing there. Now, there still is a chance that it'll be back in 2027. It looked like the track president today came out with a conversation about the future of the IndyCar schedule and Thermal being on it. Everybody's asking what they're going to replace it with. Well, Arlington, of course, and you're going to have that probably, obviously, that race is in what, April? So that kind of moves into that slot. But I don't see any other new tracks, David, coming to the schedule in 2026. You and I went to Thermal last year. I personally enjoyed being out there. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a laid back atmosphere. The drivers were having a good time. Maybe it was because at that point it wasn't a points paying race. It was like an all-star race. There was some cool celebrities out there. The scenery was one of the best you'll find in IndyCar. But I think a lot of fans were just not happy with the racetrack, the racing, the TV going out. But I didn't mind it. I didn't hate it. I want to know your thoughts on what we saw out of Thermal.
Well, careful what you wish for here, folks. All we have done is complain about the first half of the IndyCar season and how there's not enough races. We just lost a race in the first half of the season, guys. Like, we complain about gaps. There's going to be a gap where Thermal was, guys. Like, we have not improved the situation. Anyway, I mean, like, I understand Thermal. And I understand the hate, okay? The hate makes sense because there was some serious, I think there were some serious public relations problems right at the start with Thermal. Like, they dug themselves a hole right away and never were able to recover from it. I don't know how they misinterpreted the way that they would be perceived. Because, and that's what's a shame about Thermal. I've said it before. Is that there is a lot of fun to be had at Thermal. There's a story to be told that's kind of, I wouldn't say relatable, but can be interesting at Thermal. You can make Thermal interesting to regular people. You don't do that by coming out and saying this is the $1 million challenge, and then one of the members of the Thermal Club is going to also win $1 million if whoever they like. You can't start with that. So that got him off to a bad start.
You're not even giving when you're not even giving that out.
Well, that's true too. I'm still curious where Alex Palou's winnings from the $1 million challenge ended up going.
Diaper told you.
Well, and then the race, the All-Star race was terrible. Like, the racing product was awful. The race this year I thought was pretty good. It was exciting enough. I didn't think it was unbelievably over the top exciting, but certainly compared to the first couple of races of the season, it was head and shoulders above that. So I'm a little bit disappointed, just merely from the perspective of it looked like we were starting to get the problem solved at the beginning of the season, even if some of the races aren't as exciting as we would like them to be. at the start of the season. At least there are races at the start of the season. And now we've gone from Arlington and Thermal, and now just Arlington. And I get it. I think everybody's hopeful that Mexico City will be added somewhere. But here's the deal, guys. I've heard nothing about Mexico. Like Mexico City, like if that was even remotely possible about happening, I would. Last time I heard anything that was remotely concrete about Mexico City was March. Okay, past that, nothing. So maybe that's just maybe my sources aren't great or no one's leaking it to me, but I don't think that's going to happen next year at the very least. 2027, maybe, but Formula One re-signed. NASCAR has a date, beat IndyCar to it. Formula E, I think, has a date. Like, there's only so much racing you can do at Hermano Rodriguez before you got too much. And where do you put it in the season? I guess you could put it at the start of the season. But again, you need a sponsor. You need someone to pay for that to happen. Because I don't think IndyCar is just going to foot the bill for it. So I don't know. I'd love to be huffing the copium like everybody is, and I would love to see Mexico City join the schedule, but I don't think it's going to join next year. I think we know what the schedule is. Like, I bet they put it out this week. Like, they're not going to add anything, right? Past Arlington?
I don't think that they are going to. I think if they were going to Mexico City, we would have already known that, or we would have had a pretty good idea that was coming for the 2026 season. One of the tweaks that I would like to see on the schedule, I mentioned this to you a few weeks ago. I think I might have mentioned on the show, running Gateway in April at night at the end of April would not be a horrible idea. You get that oval in that every driver talks about. We would like to have an oval before the Indianapolis 500. Hell, you could almost even do it. It'd be a long week, but you could almost even do it if you did the Indianapolis 500 test on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and then you took those cars, you didn't have to switch them over to Gateway for the race weekend. You could run a Saturday night race, maybe, and again, it's going to be April, so you're not really, you're going to be competing probably against the NBA playoffs and that type of thing when it comes to a rating. Fox has to have programming to go up against those type of situations, go up against the Stanley Cup final, go up against baseball, go up against the NBA finals. So why not a Saturday night in Gateway where I looked at the temperature the last 2 or 3 years, it was like a high of 68, which all we talked about is when the track's cooler, you see better racing. That gives you what the drivers want in an oval heading into the month of May, and having that oval under your belt before the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah. And I suspect that the weather's pretty decent in Alabama for a couple of months. You could move Barber. Like, I still think you could move Barber if you really. I like Gateway being in that spot. I mean, if you could somehow move Barber further up the schedule a little bit, maybe a couple of weeks, and then have Gateway kind of in that late April, early May slot, I think that would be great. I really do. It's obviously going to be a good show. We figured the Gateway package out, and again, the car ain't changing for the next 2 years, so we know what it needs now. They're capable of producing the racing that we want to see, and if the conditions are cooler, it's only going to be that much crazier. Cooler conditions will also make it easier for fans to come out because it's close to Indianapolis. I think fans who are like chomping at the bit for the Indy 500 gives them something to come out for, something similar. Obviously, Gateway likes promoting the hell out of their events, so I think they would probably like that date as well as a lead into the Indy 500. I love that. I love that idea. I hope that the schedule makers are as ambitious as you are, Tony.
Well, we shall see. A couple quick shout-outs from the weekend at Road America. Had a great time up there. Shout out to Kyle Collette, who was your Indy Next winner. He finally broke through and broke up that Andretti Global party with Bucky Hughes and Dennis Hauger winning all the races so far. Santino Ferrucci had a huge weekend, finishing third. It was funny. Friday, he talked about how much he loved this track, and then Saturday, I saw him in the evening, and he's like, I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow. We're just going to throw everything we have at it and see where it ends up. And It ends up third. Felix, who's always been good there, as you mentioned. Kiffin Simpson had a great weekend. I thought Nolan Siegel had a good weekend. I had one of my favorite conversations on Friday of the year when it comes to bullpens, and that was with Robert Schwartzman and Marcus Armstrong, are very good friends. Check that out on my X or Facebook or Instagram. We've got a week off before we head to Mid-Ohio. Not much on the Dude Bro Source categories. Obviously, what we learned today in thermal being off the schedule. There's a couple drivers. I mentioned Yuri Vips last week that is looking for money to take to another team. There are teams interested in Yuri Vips's talents behind the wheel. But everything else kind of just, I will say this, and I've stuck up for this driver a lot when sometimes it's been very hard to. Joseph Newgarden did not seem to be in a good mood all weekend, which I understand. He did not talk to the media after the big crash on Sunday night at Gateway, which I totally understand. Did not seem to be in a very good mood this past weekend. And from a source that I would know and trust, IndyCar has gone to him and said, hey, look, you need to be a little bit more personable to the media. And this is the driver that I posted on Friday. The autograph session was over. And by the way, this isn't the first time. This is not the first time I've seen Joseph Newgarden be the last driver at an autograph session signing autographs. I've seen it multiple times. And on Friday, he was there, and I was like, all right, this is a great tweet. Like, maybe this is something behind the scenes that the people at home or the people who don't travel to all the races may not get to see. And he's never going to embrace that villain role that I think we all would like him to just go full villain. If you're going to do that, go full villain. But don't do something that pisses off the fans or pisses off your fellow competitors and then go on a nervous tweet rant the next day or whatever. So maybe we see a little bit more out of Joseph over the next couple of weeks. I totally get Gateway. I said it on the show last week. I had no problem with him walking out of medical and going back to his motorhome. I had no problem with that at all. Did not get much out of Joseph throughout this past weekend. And it was even like, hey, what's up? You know, it's going to be a hot one this weekend in passing. It was just, he gave me the peace sign. And it's not like Joseph to stop and talk to me, but it is pretty normal that most drivers, even Joseph at times, will at least, I don't know, honor my existence. And it's not just me. I'm not just making this about me, although it probably sounds like I am. But Joseph, they've talked to him like, hey, man, be a little bit more personal. So,
hey, can I play devil's advocate here? Can I play?
If you're gonna go full villain, just go full villain.
I want to play devil's advocate. You ready for this? You ready for this take? Joseph Joseph Newgarden doesn't know me shit. If he doesn't want to talk, hang on. No. And if other media members are complaining about that, that's an ego problem. I don't give a damn. Like if a driver doesn't want to talk to me, great. If that helps you perform, great. I don't like. Yeah, it is a little hurtful, I guess. But if it's across the board, he doesn't want to talk to the media, great. Because in Formula One, it's always awesome. Like when Fernando Alonso just gets up there and goes, "I'm just not going to talk to you. I'm just not going to say anything." You know, it's great. So look, and I'm gonna sound like I'm defending Joseph here.
Well, people love Fernando Alonso. Joseph Newgarden.
They haven't always.
He's the most polarizing driver. He's just like Joey Logano. There's no, it's split 50-50. You either love Joseph or you hate Joseph. He's winning Indianapolis 500s 2 out of the last 3. He's obviously not happy with this season, as I think every Penske driver is.
Well, he should not be happy with it. He's had a terrible season. But but if you're having a terrible season and you know that's all the media is going to ask you about, like, yeah. I don't know how I feel about the series going to him and saying you have to talk. Like, why? If he doesn't have anything to say, why are you going to put him in the position where he has to just no comment everybody? I don't.
Well, I think you and I can guess who the media members that may have mentioned this.
Well, obviously, but again,
and one isn't a particular media member. One is somebody who is distinctly involved in a partner of Team Penske, so to speak.
But again, and maybe this is just my attitude. towards it. I don't think, again, Joseph doesn't owe me shit. Like, he does not have to, like, again, if he doesn't want to talk, then that's not my problem. If he doesn't want to talk, but him talking is a way for him to defend himself. But if he doesn't want that right, or he doesn't want to use that right, it's not my problem. Like, that's his choice. And so I don't need the series to go to him on my behalf or somebody else's behalf to make him talk if he doesn't want to. Like, I don't know. Like, that's the whole Marshawn Lynch thing. If we go back to like the Super Bowl 10 years ago, where Marshawn Lynch just didn't want to talk to the media. The NFL made him go talk to the media. And look, it was a great like personality moment for Marshawn Lynch, probably made him $10 million in endorsement deals. So it all worked out in the end, but that wasn't productive for anybody. And if Joseph is just saying, I'm not going to be productive in these media scrums, then I'm just not going to go. That's fair. That's his choice. But if he wants his story out there, he's going to have to talk to the media. But if he doesn't want to talk to the media and he wants us just to say whatever the hell we want about him, that's his right. I don't have a problem with Joseph not talking to the media. I really don't.
I think team camaraderie inside of Team Penske right now is totally cooked. I think what they've gone through, I've not seen three of those drivers kind of together doing anything over the last couple of weeks, really since the Indianapolis 500. You've got Joseph seemingly pissed off at the world. McLaughlin with some terrible luck, not winning races. You've got Will Power in the midst of a contract negotiation, maybe not coming back, maybe going somewhere else. We don't know. There has been some small rumors. He's obviously the first domino that will fall when it comes to silly season inside of IndyCar. Their three top brass are gone. One got hired at McLaren, we learned on Friday.
Yeah, can we talk about that real quick?
We'll see Kyle Moyer wearing papaya on top of Nolan Siegel stand, but I think Penske, like, we might look back at the last couple of months. If Will exits stage left and somebody else comes in to take that, we're going to look at the last couple of months of what happened at Indy and say this was either a turning point in three different drivers' careers inside of IndyCar, or we're going to be talking in a year or two about, like, they put all that shit behind them and now they're back in full force. Kyle Moyer now with Nolan Siegel, who obviously McLaren has gone to bat for. Although what they told him after his cussing outbreak at Gateway was a bit rough. I didn't really like that they came out with an apology. Nolan was in the heat of the battle. Nolan was very fired up, and it was a multiple week firing up from Detroit to Gateway on a Penske car and Scott McLaughlin. Him and Scott are all good. I asked Scott off the record on Friday if he was all good with Nolan. He said, yep, sure am. We had a chat, all good.
Off the record, and then it goes on the record because you say
it wasn't off the record. It wasn't off the record, I guess. It was more so just like after we were done, I was like, hey, are you and Nolan good? And he said, yeah. So
well, hang on. Can I let it off.
I'll mute myself for 30 minutes.
No, it's not going to go on for 30 minutes. I just got to blow off a little bit of steam here because so I think I was riding to Stuttgart, or I was riding to Nurburgring.
We get it. You're in Europe. You're in Europe.
It's my entire personality. But that controversy came out, and first of all, I didn't comment on it because I thought it was the most stupid controversy of all time. It's a hot mic. Like, the kid is driving a 200-mile-per-hour race car. You're gonna get pissed off. You're gonna say the F word. No, like, the fact that it was a controversy. Now, I get it. If he had said a slur, if he had said something, just like batshit insane, like if he'd said something way outside of the dude, MF'd somebody. Like, that's it. In a race car. Oh, heavens to Betsy. That's the worst thing that's ever been done. Oh, my feelings are so hurt. No, bull crap. Okay? No, not controversial whatsoever that a race car driver got pissed off in a race and said something to his crew over the radio. And it wasn't even that bad. Like, I've heard way worse team radios than that. So the fact that Nolan Siegel got like completely raked over the coals and his team had to like apologize, I no. What are we doing? That's soft. That is soft. Okay, sorry. That's
Well,
thumbs down.
what didn't add to it was the fact that what if like we knew that McLaren was going to come out with a statement, because what did we see all last year? It was about mental health and promoting everybody, and everybody's invited, and everybody this and everybody that, and
Do you
then
think
all of a
putting
sudden
out,
Gavin Ward's
wait a second. Do you think putting out a statement and having that kid get raked over the coals online was good for his mental health? Like, I mean, if that's what it's about,
absolutely.
well, if that's what
Yeah.
it's about, but I don't think that's what it's about. And I understand from a PR perspective that wasn't I mean, I guess it wasn't a good look, but like it's like in the context of the moment, it's a race car driver pissed off behind the wheel of a race car. He didn't go, when you talk about Joseph talking to the media, Nolan didn't get out of the car and MF Scott McLaughlin to us. He didn't do that on Fox. He did it on the radio, driving down the pit lane. Like, there's a huge difference. Like, someone had to go on the app, watch Nolan Siegel's on board, which Fox can't even be bothered to do, as we learned at the Indy 500 last lap, right? So nobody's watching the Nolan Siegel on board except for one person who sees that, hears that, and goes, I'm going to put it on Twitter, which is fine. It's okay to do that. But then everybody flipped out, including the team, which I completely disagree with. Like, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. You guys are pearl clutching for no reason. Nolan is fine. He can be angry.
Well, that was exactly my point. It was the fact that, look, yes, it came out. And if you're going to issue a statement, all you had to issue was, we've reviewed the film and we'll have the proper discussions in private with Nolan. That was it. But for him to be sat down by multiple people and for people to say that it tarnished the brand, that's just tough. It's not. I said worse last night in 95-degree heat playing pickleball. And I think when you are on, like I said last week, God forbid the kids show some personality, the kids show some passion inside of a race car. And it's not a right. I think it's like a privilege that we get to be in on those interactions with the team by having a scanner or going back and watching via the IndyCar app or wherever you get the onboard cameras. I thought that the statement that McLaren put out kind of pushed it over the top, which wasn't necessary. And I have worked with Nolan, both in a professional setting, whether it be the media or spotting for him. He's a great kid. He's been under a lot of scrutiny from a lot of people. Results aren't there. Is he bringing money? Is he going to be in that car next year? Are they going to farm him out? TK's on the line if Nolan Siegel doesn't perform. Like, he hears all this stuff. That's a lot of pressure to put on a 20-year-old kid that's in a major form of motorsports, was thrust into a major form of motorsports that at times takes almost a year to kind of get comfortable with what you are doing and the team that you are doing it with. And I think we've really seen Nolan, Kiffin Simpson's on there as well, drivers that were kind of thrust into a situation maybe a little bit too early. I thought it was entertaining. I thought that, honestly, you talk about marketing and promotion and trying to get more eyes on the sport. Fans want wrecks. Fans want drama. Fans want controversy. Fans want rivalries. What is so great on any kind of sporting event, Major League Baseball, NBA, high school, it's rivalries. God forbid we have somebody show passion, get pissed off at somebody else, and give us the drama that will probably get us some ratings. If I was IndyCar, I'd be promoting the absolute hell out of that. And I'd bleep it out, obviously, but I would have that. I'll tell you this. Here's one for you, Fox, another one for you. My promotion for races for the next couple of weeks, the first three things that would be shown on my commercials would be Alex Rodriguez at St. Pete going, oh my God, it's so fast. This is awesome. It would be Joseph Newgarden flying over the pit road at Gateway. And it would be the bleeped out version of Nolan Siegel being pissed off at Team Penske. I would promote the hell out of all the drama.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't that would be a very Fox Sports promo. It would be very very on brand, that's for
Perfect.
sure. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. I get it. Yeah. I I don't see a problem with it, and I get why they, I guess, got mad, but for me, like, it's a race car driver driving a race car, and you're
Your
surprised
thoughts on
he got mad.
your thoughts on Kyle Moyer joining the sixth crew and McLaren?
Well, you just brought up the great point here is that Nolan Siegel is going to have every possible resource to succeed. They're taking another excuse away from him, because Kyle Moyer does a great job, did a great job at Team Penske, did a great job at Andretti before that. So yeah, it's put up or shut up time for the sixth team with him joining the box. And I would say the other part of that that is very interesting is, wow, shock of shocks, the team owners that complained about Team Penske and wanted all these people fired, all of a sudden hire them the minute their gardening leave ends. Wow, can't believe it. I'm shocked. Can you hear my shocked expression? You see the shock on my face? I wonder what team Tim Cindric's going to go to whenever his gardening leave ends. If it ever ends. I don't know if it'll end. But I know this.
His,
He'll get hired somewhere. Maybe even an IndyCar. We'll see.
are you saying this from some facts that you've gathered, or is this just a total David Land shot in the dark?
I'm not taking any shots in the dark here. I'm just saying, like, are you surprised? I'm mainly criticizing the team owners here, because you guys wanted all these people fired and then you hire them right back. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Nuke Shot Media, I'm with you. Tim Cindric to the 28, please.
To the 28? Okay, I bet Marcus would like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can we talk?
It
Speaking
says Tim Cindric to Ganassi, maybe. And then Sky Warren wants an update on your IMSA Riz in the 6 hours of the Glen.
Okay, we'll talk IMSA Riz. So IMSA took place, a really exciting finish. The 31 ran out of virtual energy on the last lap. The number 60 Meyer Shank Racing Acura won, and looked like a really exciting race. Mixed conditions, rain, chaos, excitement. IMSA's awesome. IMSA's a lot of fun. I think my next IMSA race will be Road America. So if you miss me at Road America this year, you get to see me at Road America IMSA. So yeah, I'm looking. I wish there were more IMSA races. Actually, I'm kind of disappointed. Like, this is kind of a dead period for IMSA post Watkins Glen. So, but I will be at, I think, the last 3 races of the season: Road America, Indy, and Petit Le Mans. So, looking forward to that. Speaking,
How long's the IMSA race at IMS?
6 hours this year, 2 hour 40 next year. So the Road America race will take the place on the Michelin Endurance Cup and will become the 6 hour race. But this year, Road America is 2 hour 40. Next year, it'll be 6 hours. And then Indy's the opposite. So if you want to see an endurance race at Indy that's not run by Stefan Rattel, you can watch the 6 hours of Indy in September, the week after. I think
How
the week
drunk do you think I can get off Michelob Ultras and Zins in 6 hours on a Sunday?
Well, one of them's an upper and one of them's a downer. So one of them might cancel out the other a little bit, at least. You could get pretty hammered. I've seen some degenerate, like, I mean, you can get hammered on a sports car weekend, and then you have to have racing going on. I mean, Nurburgring 24 hours was unbelievable. I mean, everybody left. So I'll talk about, again, did you know I went to Europe? The Nurburgring 24 hours, half of the people left before the end of the race because they had partied all week, and because they are German, they have to go to work. It's not possible. We have to go to work. So they partied through Wednesday through Sunday night, and they Saturday night, and then they left on Sunday. So the track was significantly less populated on race day. But speaking of 28, can we talk about the 2028 car? I've been stimming to talk about this. I guess we'll start, Tony. I mean, you're less interested in this part of aspect of the sport than I am. So I guess we'll start with you because you're probably going to speak less on it. But how did you feel that IndyCar finally announced this, announced details? The details themselves, I would say, not exactly as interesting as I perhaps would have desired, but I think they're boring for a very good reason. So, what do you think, Tony?
Yeah, the low voltage to me was kind of disappointing. Um, Making it a little bit lighter, I think will probably help, obviously, with having having the car be so heavy. I'll say this, and I don't remember this being on the record or if they said it or not, but did IndyCar come out and officially tell us at one point that it was going to be 2027? I believe they did, because I believe my exact tweet was stop writing checks that you can't cash. So I'm glad that it is going to be 2028. They have finally mentioned that. I mean, obviously, I wish it was newer in 2027 because I think there was rumors going around in the month of May that there was a possible test at IMS as early as this upcoming fall. For me, it's just like cool. It's going to be a new car. Just like be on the timeline that you tell us. Like if you're going to tell us something, just do it. Don't write checks that you can't cash. You've done that way too many times, whether it was fantasy app type of stuff, whether it was sports cards, whether it was video games, whether it was this, whether it was the hybrid, whether it was that. There's just been too many like mouth checks written that have not been cashed. So if you're going to do it in 2028, God, it better be 2028.
The first line in the press release, or at least the first line of the first quote from Doug Bowles was, "The time has come for a new chassis." That was the understatement I thought of the decade, actually, because I think there's an argument to be made that there should have been a new chassis a decade ago, and here we are, a decade on, and still waiting 2 years. There's a lot of things I would like to kind of mention. Some of this is going to be dude bro sources. Believe it or not, there were some people I could talk to in Germany, so I learned a few things about where this is headed. So you mentioned the weight. I guess we'll start with the weight first. They estimate between 80 to 100 pounds will be taken out of this car versus the current car. And 80 to 100 pounds, of course, is exactly the weight of the hybrid system that has been added to the car. So essentially, we have decided that the weight of an Indy car in 2023 is the perfect weight. Although I believe the drivers were complaining that the car was too heavy at that point too, before you added 100 pounds to it. But so that a lot of that's coming out of the gearbox. X-Track has been selected as the sole supplier. They're currently the sole supplier. Actually, if you talk to the drivers off the record, one of the biggest complaints is the gearbox. The current gearbox is just not modern enough. So I wonder if you'll see like a 7 or 8 speed gearbox. I think that would be kind of cool if they did something a little bit different. Although CART was using 7-speed gearboxes in 2001, but never mind. The car is Dallara built. Again, are you surprised? I'm sure we'll see things like the aero screen more better integrated into the car. They mentioned that it's going to have the same styling cues that make an IndyCar, which says to me it's probably not going to be all that ambitious, which, remember, the team owners complained that the car didn't look like a video game car that was originally shown. By the way, I've seen that original rendering of that car. At some point, when I feel that I want to actually show it, I could just show it to people. But I also want to be fair to IndyCar, and I kind of want to wait for them to put out the official rendering first before I put out something that's old. The most interesting part and aspect of all of this, I think, and kind of our biggest clue as to what's about to happen next, is the fact that IndyCar essentially is readopting the 2.4 liter engine formula, which was originally going to be paired with the hybrids. And I believe the new car then was like scheduled for 25. Like, it might have been scheduled for this year or 26. I don't remember exactly when. The hybrids were going to come before obviously, and be integrated into the new car or the current car before being integrated into the current chassis. But so I guess we'll say this first before I kind of say the kind of stuff that is dude bro tier. Um, if we're looking at things logically, both of the current engine manufacturers have built a 2.4 liter engine. They've tested them. I've seen them test both of these engines. They were pretty far down the line in terms of the development process of those engines. Both Chevy and Honda have one. Now, there's been all sorts of different reports about why they did not go with the 2.4 liter engine formula or keep it going or debut it with the hybrids. There was some talk about Chevy's engine not working with the hybrid or something like that. I'm sure that could be worked out. Honda has an engine that works. That's a 2.4 liter engine, and it currently powers their GTP car. We just mentioned that they won the 6 hours of Watkins Glen. That, for all intents and purposes, the rev limit's a little bit different, and a few other things are different, but that is the engine that was intended to be the IndyCar engine. So they already make that engine. It's already being produced. Now, obviously, the volume would have to go up, and there's costs associated with that, but the development work has been done, which is a huge cost to a manufacturer. So the fact that IndyCar has decided to go with a 2.4 liter engine formula says to me that most likely they are expecting to keep the two engine manufacturers that they currently have. That's again, this is just me bringing things to a logical conclusion. But it just seems too safe. You wouldn't make such a safe decision if you weren't protecting somebody, right? Like, am I way off base here? Like, because otherwise, if you were not going to have, if it was only going to be Ilmor building the engines, right? Why wouldn't you do something crowd pleasing? Why not a turbocharged V8 or a 10 or a 12? And I get it. You might not be able to do that cost wise, but we know, generally speaking, you can do a V8 engine that sounds pretty good for around the same cost or maybe less if it's a crate engine. It would seem to me, Tony, that and then we'll kind of get into some of the dude bro stuff I've heard about this engine formula. But right now, to you, how do you feel about that particular aspect of it? The safe decision to go with a formula that the two engine manufacturers have already developed technology for, and one of them's already running it.
Yeah, it was almost like they threw Honda a bone. If you think about it, I mean, obviously Honda was the ones that should be pressing for the hybrid. Honda was the ones that have been kind of upset with IndyCar, and it pretty much, I think, at one point threatened to pull out of the series. Honda was not happy with what we saw out of Team Penske in the month of May. So much so that there were meetings with top brass from Honda and top brass from IndyCar the week of the Indianapolis 500. I hope it attracts maybe a third engine manufacturer as well, which I think would take the burden off of Honda to produce less engines than what they are right now. I would ask you too, is it more likely that we have three engine manufacturers? And in a roundabout way, with this new car and what you mentioned with Delara, are there too many monopolies inside of IndyCar?
Boy, you asked me two really loaded questions. I guess we'll start with the first, with the monopolies. Uh, Unfortunately, that's just the way they do business now. It's You don't have to do it that way. Many other racing series have different suppliers, but IndyCar's just decided that this is how things are going to be, and until there's a real desire for change, we're never going to see it change. To the point of additional engine manufacturers, I've said for a very long time that IndyCar's first priority was keeping two, probably keeping the two that are currently there. I think, to your point, virtually they have caved to everything Honda has asked them to do. I can't think of one thing, and again, there could be something behind closed doors that we don't know about that they've asked for, but at least publicly, IndyCar's given them everything. they could want. Everything.
Oh, they've given Honda whatever they have asked for. If they changed, if they wanted a different sorts of coffee, if they wanted whatever it was, they would have probably caved to it.
Right. So that's where we get to some dude bro sources here. And that's where I will eventually answer the question about additional manufacturers. So I had a conversation with somebody this weekend at the Nurburgring. And I kind of asked the question, you excited to buy a new car? And, that was met with a bit of an interesting response. But the next question I said was, do you think Honda's staying? Because obviously I think everybody hears the same things. Everybody talks. And I think you and I and a lot of other people in the sport are starting to feel more confident that they are going to stay. And this person also felt that way. I was told specifically that no formal decision has been made about them leaving, which says to me, I mean, we're getting pretty late here. The contract ends at the end of 2026, and you're generally not gonna just like leave last minute. You're gonna make that announcement, like if you're leaving, you're gonna make that announcement very soon. And if we're not hearing, again, I'm not saying it, we could get that announcement tomorrow. Please don't do that, but we could have that announcement tomorrow. But like we're getting to nut cutting time on that. If they're gonna do that, like it's pretty soon where it would make sense, especially if you're going to NASCAR, because the development program for that would have to start like now if it's going to happen. And NASCAR is talking about more horsepower. You're seeing Dodge involved. Not hearing a lot about torque sensors or BOP. So says to me, there's not much going on there from a potential Honda going to NASCAR thing. Again, my interpretation of what's going on. The other part about that makes me, and when we talk about caving to Honda's demands, the thing that I heard was that it's going to be a spec ICE, internal combustion engine. So a spec 2.4 liter engine. So I don't know if you would use Honda's design or if you'd use Ilmore's design, but they would pick one of the two, and it would be more spec than we've ever seen before. I even heard that they're going to keep doing the original plan, which was to use as much of the DW12 as they can in the new car. I hope that's not true. But again, cost savings. But when you talk about cost savings from Honda's perspective, if you go back to that article in 2023 that was written by Marshall, the cost savings were a big one, and the big suggestion from Honda was spec ICE, and then you do the computers. You have that sounds so stupid. I'm saying that completely wrong. You do it's like a coding battle, right? It's like Formula E. It's the Formula E formula, except for with internal combustion engines. And that would obviously cut cost because no longer are you building and developing engines, you're developing software for the race car. Formula E has an awful... Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So the average fan who doesn't know the ins and outs of an ECU or what the gearbox is, sell me to the average casual fan on why this new car is needed.
Why the new car is needed? Well, you need to take weight off of it, number one.
And what should excite the average fan on this new car?
As the rules are currently written, nothing. What should I mean, seriously, like what should excite you as a fan? There's two things, I guess. Would be number one, you can keep the current suppliers happy, so that you can keep having teams with good budgets and competitive teams. I think if it's a spec engine, you might have an easier time of getting entries at the Indy 500. Outside of that, if you like current IndyCar, it's probably going to look and sound very, very similar. So if you like that, it ain't changing. So congrats. You get to keep your toy.
Would you say, knowing that the new car comes in 2028, that we will see more entries on the Indianapolis 500 entry list in 2026 and 2027? Because maybe those cars, that's probably like the last time you can get some money out of these chassis.
Not in 26. If 27, let's say Honda and Chevy are both in the series in 27, and the development freeze on the engines happen, you could see more entries, because I think that would potentially open up some budget on both Honda and Chevy side, if they're not developing the engines, to do some extra entries at the Indy 500. But that's about it. And typically the last times we've seen a major chassis change were where you had to require everybody to use the new equipment. So that'd be 1997, 2003, 2012, and then the 2028. And in those other three examples of making everybody buy new stuff, the entries, you barely got to 33. So do I expect a huge entry in 2028? No. So enjoy the next few years of bumping, because we might not see it for a couple of years. But I would say this on the engine manufacturer side, or I guess it's not even going to be manufacturer. It's going to be engine partner. Like, what the hell are we going to start calling this if it is a Spec ICE? Engine partner front. There's been some. I think Marshall's article had a few listed, which were Porsche, which is quite interesting from the perspective of, I've heard on the sports car side that their factory involvement with Team Penske ends this year. Now, that doesn't mean that Penske's not going to be running Porsches at Le Mans or in IMSA in the future, but it does mean that Porsche is going to move their budget elsewhere, potentially into a different racing series. So I could see a scenario where, if that's true, maybe Roger convinced them to do some electronics work in IndyCar. That would line up with what they do in Formula E, because that's exactly how Formula E works. It's a spec powertrain, and then the electronics are what you're able to work on. So that would fit with what Porsche is willing to do in open wheel racing. It would make some sense if the budget opens up at a corporate level for them to do that, and they would be able to keep working with Roger Penske. Maybe Roger's deal, and I'm totally speculating here, would be that he would keep running 963s under the Penske Racing banner, and hey, bring your factory budget over to IndyCar and run some cars. I don't know. That would be interesting. On the Formula E front, the other one that Marshall mentioned was Nissan. Nissan, again, is another manufacturer that's involved in Formula E. They like that business model in open wheel racing. They do it there. Could see them doing it in IndyCar. Nissan's been involved in IndyCar before. In fact, Porsche has been too. Nissan was, ironically, we talked about 1997 IRL. They were one of the two suppliers, along with General Motors and Oldsmobile. So it would be interesting to see Nissan. They're trying to rebuild their brand. So maybe IndyCar is a way for them to do it. And then the other one was Toyota. We know Toyota's been sniffing around for a while. I'm skeptical that Toyota would come. But if Honda and Nissan are there, maybe Toyota takes the bait. I don't know. So it's interesting. And the one that I had heard myself was Nissan. So if it is Nissan, I don't know if that's necessarily super exciting or strong for the series, but it would take some burden away from Honda, because they would have less cars that they would need to supply. That's another point that they have made abundantly clear anytime they've had the opportunity to. And another Japanese manufacturer for them to race against wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I think of the three manufacturers that are rumored, the one that would make the most impact would be Porsche. And I've seen it firsthand at Le Mans and Nurburgring. Porsche sells a ton of merchandise. They sell a ton of cars, and they have a passionate fan base. If Porsche were involved in IndyCar, it would be massive for the sport. So, yeah.
Before we wrap up, is there a chance that Roger Penske would separate himself on the IndyCar side from Chevy to lure in a new manufacturer?
I think, why not? And I think again, to the point of separating church and state. It would be a little bit difficult if Roger owned Ilmor, supplied all of the engines, has a partnership with Chevy, and also runs the Porsche program. Yeah, I mean, that would be a little bit difficult, I guess. But from a different perspective, I guess it would mean Roger would be taking a risk going with a new manufacturer rather than an existing one. So I could see, I could see that. I don't think, and you and I have kind of debated this. I don't know if like Team Penske's as married to Chevy as they appear to be. I don't think Chevy would want to lose them. I'll put it that way. But if it's for the good of the sport, if that's what convinces a Porsche or a Nissan or a Toyota to come, that they get Team Penske, I think Penske Entertainment has to look at that as a negotiating chip. My opinion, anyway.
Well, we appreciate you guys spending your Wednesday night with us. We'll be back next week on a Tuesday night. A couple things we didn't get to real quick. Chase Briscoe won the Cup race for those that watched that. David's got full recaps from his trip to Europe over the last couple of weeks on his YouTube channel. Check out the Tony D podcast at Tony D Indy on X as well. David Land, don't forget to follow him, like and subscribe here on YouTube. We appreciate all the comments tonight. I know we didn't get to a lot of them, but it's always good to leave you wanting more and to have conversations to come back over the next couple of weeks. Don't forget to like and subscribe as mentioned here on YouTube. For David Land, I'm Tony D. We'll be back next Tuesday night on Unverified.